Mr. Sullivan.
Mr. Jackson, how are you today?
I am wonderful today.
I have a question for you. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Will you ever reopen?
Will I ever reopen? Oh, that's so funny. I can't reopen because I never shut down.
So I have to tell you, I was at Genius X the last Thursday and Friday. I was at Genius X, and Ilko was there, and Ilko gave the greatest presentation on how to use LinkedIn as a list builder.
He's a pretty smart fellow, that Ilko de Boer.
Who?
I said he's a pretty smart fellow, that Ilko de Boer.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, he gave this presentation. It was just an absolute knockout. I mean,
that's awesome.
Yeah, and, I told him, if I told him if I ever came back, I'd came back as a Dutch speaker who knew how to speak English.
That's what you'd come back as? I love it.
Yeah, because he's got this very beguiling, way of presenting. And part of the reason is because he learned English as a second language. Yeah, and it's kind of magical. He's got this sort of magical way of catching your attention and holding your attention. And the reason is because English, he has to really be thoughtful about his English. Whereas if you grow up speaking a language, you don't even give it any thought. And
that's the truth.
Yeah, and so anyway, he did it, and then I asked. There were questions afterwards, and I asked him. I said, "Now, in terms of being as lazy as Dean Jackson," I said, and he's a 10.
Yes.
Where does you take you in your attempt to be as lazy as Dean Jackson? And he says, I was making progress before the pandemic, but he said now he's on another planet.
That's so funny. I have to tell you something related to this because that's a perfect segue, Dan. That I'll tell you something. Today, happy birthday, by the way.
Well, that'll be Tuesday.
Yes, this week is the big week for you.
Yeah, and happy birthday last week for you.
Yes, thank you.
We have to do an investigation of where if Victorians are just natural to this thing of not wanting to do anything
on their birthdays or on the Taurians.
Yeah, well, you're a Taurus. I'm a Taurus.
That's true. That's true.
And,
Well, Dan, I was looking in my journal here. I often like to look back at, I have a whole shelf full of all of my old journals, and I just open up, I pull one off the shelf every now and then and just kind of look for at random, open the pages and see what that period held for me. And it was in, this was the period between, it was now, March to June 2001. And it was really interesting to see my thoughts because I kind of keep a narrative journal. And one of the things that this is when, 2001. So I was like about a year and a half into my, if you remember, I know I'm being successful when ideas were created in 1999 as going into the new millennium kind of thing. And I was starting to look at these. I have this most wonderful tally of passive revenue. And I was saying, my thought on page 69 was, okay, I'm becoming hooked on passive revenue and doing the things I really want to do. I'm starting to wonder why I would do anything else. And I've got these lists of stopyourdivorce.com at that month was doing $22,000 in that month. I had a course called How to Write, Publish, and Sell a Money-Making Ebook that had done $11,000 that month. And my money-making website was at $35,000. And this was where I realized money-making websites was a new addition I started in 2001. And it was funny that on a couple of pages later, on page 71, I see totally crystal clear how selling higher priced items is truly the answer. I make the very most money from money-making websites at $2,500 plus the recurring after. And I thought, that is so. Plus, I see the steadiness of Stop Your Divorce, bringing in $15,000 to $17,000 net dollars every month. And I started realizing, this is such a snapshot in time of my thinking that at the time, $2,500 was more expensive things, because I was used to all of the things I was selling were, I was selling Stop Your Divorce at $79 and selling a lot of them. I was selling my ebook coaching, the How to Write, Publish, and Sell a Money-Making ebook at $349 as an automated teleclass that people could take part in. The other stuff was all, truly, it was all passive, but lower price. And then when I added the money-making websites, that then shot to the top of the things, in addition to all the stuff I was doing with Joe Stun. This was my side gig or whatever, working on the passive revenue stuff. But it's funny.
Yeah. What's really interesting, in terms of the concept, the gap and the gain, you're in pure gain when you do this, because you're going back 20 years and you're measuring yourself now in May of 2020 against your best results from 19 years, who you were actually, to a certain extent. A lot of people don't realize this because they think of goals as something separate from yourself. But I said, measurements and goals are actually yourself. It's simply that you're projecting yourself into the future, and you're using measurements to say, when I'm in the future, when I'm in the future at a certain point, and then you can put dates to it. The human brain really understands two things. It understands deadlines, which is a measurement of time, and it understands achievement measurement, which is a measurement of how much better your capabilities, your vision, your capabilities, and your reach, who you are. And, it's so, it's so interesting for me to just enjoy your enjoyment of this, because this is just pure gain. You've just seen.
It really is. I mean, I just love, this is when I was really into the online publishing at the time. And Eben Pagan and I, we did a book with the editor of Cat Fancy magazine called Cat Secrets. And I'm looking on page 56 and 57. I was working on the sales letter for the Cat Secrets book, and it was so that things like the 7 best foods to feed your cat. Hint, it's not one of those expensive brands. And the potential lifespan of a cat is 27 years. Here's why yours will probably only live to 12, and it may be your fault.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I mean, 10 people foods that make cats sick and 4 that heal. Oh, my goodness, Dan. It was so much fun to do that kind of stuff, you know?
Well,
and I still get so much joy out of that right now. You know, 20 years later, I look at these pages, just like you said, it's all gain. I feel like a kid. I still relate to that. I'm super stoked for me now, knowing, you know, me then kind of thing, knowing that the future was even bigger than I could have even imagined then, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's really quite amazing. I don't know why I thought of this, but we have, I think, what are neighborhood cats. I got a feeling they don't belong to anybody, you know, or if they do, they disavow it. You know, and they're well fed, so I don't really, you know, they're not scrawny cats, so
they're emancipated. Yeah.
I got a feeling that they treat about 10 neighborhood places as a buffet, you know.
Oh, that's so funny.
And they have to get some exercise, you know, so it's not, it's not healthy. But they're kind of mean, you know. You can tell right off the bat that these are not friendly cats. You know, they're kind of, they're constantly in the activity of establishing their dominance wherever they go. And but anyway, over the last 2 weeks, we've acquired a fox. So we have a real good looking fox. And you know our place. You know what it looks like. So and there's a lot of entree points to our place. You can get in about 5 or 6 places. And what I've noticed is they've established peace and order as far as wildlife and, you know, neighborhood cats here, because whenever the fox is on our property, you don't see any squirrels, you don't see any raccoons, you don't see any cats.
Oh, my goodness.
And I said, I'm not going to report him. I said that this has been a good acquisition.
Plenty of room. Yeah, plenty of room for everyone. Yeah.
Bothered by all the wildlife on your property, acquire a fox. You know, and the upkeep is zero. You know, you don't have to do anything.
The problem with your problems is that they bother you. Right.
So anyway, and I think it's kind of maybe it's a yearling or a 2-year, because he's not real. I've seen bigger foxes, and this one I think is capable of taking care of himself. But you know, the beaches, we have a lot of ravine systems, so I've got a feeling that there's kind of like superhighway, you know, wildlife superhighways, the ravines, because they can go all over the place with the ravine system. But it's kind of interesting. I think they've become bolder because of the absence of humans on the street.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, because, life after humans. There it is. Life after people. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's really, really interesting, but this is good. Have you checked your email this morning? Did you check your email?
I did. I got this, and it's funny. I've been preparing for my trademark stuff, and I was going to run that by you separately, I guess. But I did get this. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I just wondered, because our last call, you know, we gave ourselves each an assignment. One was to start the IP, and then the other thing was,
and mine was to start protecting it. Yes.
Yeah, and I said I will create, you know, because I'm kind of a tool maker, so I just
this is exactly what I had in mind. I was wondering about the formulation. I was thinking about the, and, run some ideas by you, but thinking the VCR formula as vision plus capability multiplied by reach. That was so I don't know whether that's, but this was very like your the tool is very, very like high speed, low drag. This is great.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that I kind of think in terms of projects. In other words, if I have a vision for something, my first thought is, well, how do we kind of state this as an immediate project? So I write that up at the top, and then there's room for the project number.
Yes.
And then it's me, who's doing this? It's me. And then what the date is that we're starting here. So I put that down. And then, remembering who I'm dealing with here, Mr. Jackson, that the VCR initially is just brainstorming. Brainstorming the vision, brainstorming the capabilities, brainstorming the reach. And then down at the bottom is the actual plan. So the bottom is what are the immediate next steps. And so I have a vision next step, capability next step, and reach next step, and then dates for those to actually be done. Yeah.
Yeah, this is really
I said
great.
It's not planning. First of all, it's brainstorming. Well, what's all your thoughts about the vision? What's all your thoughts about the capability? What's all the thought about the reach? And it's very, very interesting is how much of my capabilities are reach capabilities, because you'll notice a tremendous similarity between what I wrote down in the capability, what I brainstormed in the capabilities column, and what I didn't put down at the bottom yet, because it's not reality yet, at the very bottom I would put copyright Dean Jackson.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Yeah, this whole I like the.
But this could be actually a tool. This could be an online tool. And what I would do next, if you like it, I'll just blank out all my copy and just send you a blank PDF, and then you can play with it.
That's what I would love. I would really love that. Yeah.
And on Monday or Tuesday, because tomorrow's a holiday here in Toronto.
Oh, right.
It's Victoria Day. It's actually Victoria Day, which seems awfully early this year, because I always remembered Victoria Day as sort of being close to American Memorial Day, but whatever. And
next weekend is Memorial Day, Dan. It's already it's the 17th of May today.
Yeah, I guess it's the last. But Memorial Day was always close to the 31st. That's why I'm really, really struck by this. But anyway, who am I to? This is obviously an area outside of my control. Anyway, Anyway, but then on Tuesday I'll get a writable PDF and just send you through a copy, unless you can convert it into a writable PDF.
I don't know how to do that. I would really appreciate it. That's awesome.
We're both missing the house.
Yeah. We don't have that capability. Yeah. But you've got these. I look here, you have your strategic coach. The production team. That's it. Exactly.
Yeah. So I'll just, if you're happy with just go forward with the present layout, then I'll just, on Tuesday morning, I'll just get the writable PDF and I'll send it to you. And then
this is great. And I wonder if there may be room for a series of tools around, like I love this idea of turning a project into the thing. What I was thinking about, in addition to that, was and the assessment of your own assets that you have, your own vision capabilities and reach assets that could be that you thinking about as currency for or capital for the allocation. It was really I just keep seeing, Dan, new things pop out at me. That we were ordering from Grubhub the other day, which we use that a lot. Do you use Uber Eats or any of those, or do you?
No, we have a caterer.
So your caterer comes all the time. Okay.
Yeah.
So
and he's and he's experimented a lot, because usually, if it's a normal week and we're here in Toronto, we'll use he'll prepare about let's just talk about the evening meal. He'll prepare probably 4 nights, and then other nights we'll play it by ear. We might go to local restaurants here. We'll eat downtown, but we're not doing that because they're not open, and we're not out and they're not open. And right. And so he's, we've said, hey, could you try this? Could you try this? And he's got a lot of time for us right now.
Oh, good. That's great. Yeah. Well, perfect. Yeah. He doesn't have many residential clients, probably, like you. That's funny.
Yeah.
At the Four Seasons, the beaches, right?
They're completely closed down,
I know.
Four Seasons is completely barricaded. They're completely. But the Hazelton isn't. It's very interesting.
Nice.
They're. And I suspect that. Doesn't the Hazelton have apartments at the top? Well,
yes, it
Four
does.
Seasons.
Absolutely.
I guess the Four Seasons, the
different tower,
the residential part of it. Yeah. But it looks really weird. I mean, it looks very weird because they built sort of a wooden box around all their doors.
Oh wow.
It's very strange.
Interesting.
Very strange.
Huh. So the capability, this process of, I've been thinking about like a workshop about the VCR as a where you go through this idea of figuring out your capabilities, figuring out your reach, assets, and what you could do if you had access to all these other things, because that's what makes Cloudlandia so amazing, is that all things are possible. So the interesting thing where I was going with that about Uber Eats or Grubhub is there's a place on there, and I always, whenever I see something and I think it seems like suspicious, I like to investigate, kind of thing. So I use it as a jumping off point. And there was a place called the Ice Cream Shop on the Grubhub app. And I was looking, there's no place in Winter Haven called the Ice Cream Shop. And this was selling Ben and Jerry's quarts or pints of ice cream, and all the flavors you could order and have them delivered. And I started looking into it, and I realized this is the brainchild of an executive at Unilever who decided to create a brand called project, a division called Ice Cream Now, and set up these partnerships with local, like all these convenience stores and gas stations and places all over the place that have freezer type of storage, to use them as the locations for all of this, how to get ice cream to people without it melting. Like, to have, if you had one ice cream shop in Winter Haven, there's no way you could deliver very far without it being the thing. But they've probably got, you know, they may have a dozen or more.
6,000.
Yeah.
6,000.
They may have a dozen or more places in Winter Haven that are part of it. And so they dispatch the Grubhub driver to the closest, you know, receptacle or a storage place for you. And they keep them stocked. They keep them in there. They pay the retailer some, you know, for the storage and stuff, and they also get to sell the things on there. But it's turned into hundreds of millions of dollars for Unilever on this one thing of selling ice cream now. So you can have ice cream delivered to your house.
Well, I'll tell you something. You know, I've been, you know, this has been a marvelous pondering things and investigating things period of time. You know, and the thing that really strikes me, you know, I'm really taken up with this concept of the U.S. just basically giving up all responsibility for the rest of the world except the United States. Okay, and this is really the person who's really onto this is Peter Zion. Who, by the way, he's the first author since I've been giving out books, you know, to my 10 times. So go back 2012 when I started this. So this is eighth year. I'm July 6th, I think, is 8 years of 10 times. And so it's 4 times a year times 8 would be 32 books. So this is the 32nd book that I've given out. And this is the first time I've repeated an author. Okay, so, and not shortly after I gave out his first book, which was last fall, September and October. And his whole thesis is that essentially it's been an American world, basically, you know, starting at the end of World War II and then continually growing. And he said that basically, he said it's been good for everybody, absolutely good for everybody, except one group of people, American workers. Workers. It's essentially American workers. It's been really bad for American workers who actually create, you know, actually manufacture stuff, actually do things. It's been very bad for American workers. And it wasn't done for economic purposes. It was done for peace and quiet purposes. The U.S. just didn't want to go. They didn't want to go back and help the Europeans clean up their room. You know, the Europeans are kind of like teenagers, and the U.S. has been basically. And the way that Europeans dirty up their room is by making war on each other. So Europe's been nonstop forever. Countries making war on each other, and then they pull the U.S. in, and so they did in the First World War, and then they did in the Second World War, and the U.S. says, "Okay, enough of this." You know, he says, "We're gonna make sure you don't screw up your rooms anymore," and but the U.S. never took economic advantage of this, and the actual proof of that is that today, the U.S., from a trade standpoint, it's the biggest trader in the world just in terms of dollars. There's no other country that has more imports and exports than the United States in dollar terms. But as a percentage of the American GDP, it's only 10%, which means that 90% of the U.S. economy is Americans buying stuff that Americans create.
Wow, I didn't realize. I didn't know it was that. I never heard the numbers before. Right.
Yeah, and 60% of that is Canada and Mexico. So with the rest of the world, it's 4% of the U.S. GDP. That's how much they've taken advantage of global trade in the last 75 years, because it was never for trade. And the basic reason is that Americans are the most venturesome consumers on the planet, and French not so much, Germans not so much, Russians not at all, and everything else. And so you never have a group of consumers like American consumers. But for 75 years, our time's been taken up trying to turn the rest of the world into consumers, and it's just not worth the effort. And so what I'm saying is, I'm going to use your Unilever example of something. So on the one hand, the U.S. just doesn't want to take responsibility for the rest of the world anymore. But what they'd really like to do is just get back to their own consumers, because Americans will buy anything. And, and you can create any kind of new delivery system, and Americans will go for it. Really, they'll just go for it. And that's really, and, if I was picking out one person to represent the American consumers, Dean Jackson would be a good person.
That's true. It's so, I'm fascinated.
If you get his attention,
really,
if you get his attention, he'll investigate. He'll investigate this.
I do. It's so. That is true. It's very true.
Well, see, there's a perfect example of a free zone collaboration.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. That's a VCR moment. He had the vision of thinking, what if we could deliver ice cream to people? Well, that's ridiculous. How could we don't know what that would take. We'd have, that's just logistically impossible. We can't, how many distribution points that would take? Well, what if we worked with other gas stations? There's a gas station or convenience store on every corner. You think about, I look at things like that, like as that would give us the reach. I look at, Domino's, just launched 2 years ago now, and it's been a driver for them of their, amazing progress, is they opened 150,000 hot spots around the country where you could get pizza delivered to wherever you are. Yeah. So you could mark the beach at the end of your street, the boardwalk or whatever. That could be a hot spot, and you could be down at the beach at a picnic table and say, "Can we let's order some pizza," and have the pizza delivered right to you at the hot spot there. Right. And it's so why do we have to? Why do we have to tether your pizza ordering? It's like remember in the old days, the telephone was tethered to a wall in the kitchen and had a cord on it. And now you can only make phone calls there. But now when you're free and you can make phone calls from anywhere, now we've all got this phone that tracks our geolocation. Why can't we have the pizza delivered right to us? That's something. That kind of.
But I have to tell you, I'm the only person who has a dedicated one-person phone.
Yes, I like that.
I have a Dean Jackson. And if I'm not talking to you for three weeks, I could lose my phone for 3 weeks, and I wouldn't go looking for it until my next podcast with you.
That is impressive enough, Ilko has recently joined the No Cell Phone Club. Has he told you about that? No iPhone.
I know. Yeah.
Did he mention it? Yeah.
Yeah. He's of all the people I know, aside from yourself, Ilko has all these instincts of getting rid of the bother. Getting rid of the bother of other people. It has to do with this thing about connectivity sickness. It's kind of like connectivity addiction. And, we have people, not so much during the pandemic, not at all, but people knocking on your door, just knocking on your door because we're right. Busy at Residential Street. and they knocked at 35 and nobody came to the door. They knocked at 37, but nobody came to the door. And the reason is because there isn't anybody at 35 and 37, but at 39, they knock on the door. And I said, are you expecting someone? And Bob says, no. And I said, well, I'm not going to answer the door.
Right.
And when I tell people this, like I have conversation with people, well, that's really rude. And I said,
really?
I said, can I ask you the question? Are you talking about me or are you talking about the person knocking on the door?
Right.
And they said, well, I mean, what, and they're caught in a dilemma because said, well, is it for my benefit that they're knocking on the door? Or is it for their benefit that they're knocking on the door?
Yeah, this is something, and true.
No, I mean, it's just an intro. I mean, that's knocking on the door. It's also the phone ringing. It's somebody sent you
my phone doesn't ring. I don't even know why we have a house phone. There's no phone plugged into the wall. I think the only reason is the security system is hooked up to it for some reason. Yeah.
But at the cottage, the new cottage house that we created, we don't have a cell phone there. I mean, we have a security service, but the security service calls our cell phone. They don't call they don't call landline.
Yeah.
And otherwise we wouldn't know. I mean, otherwise we wouldn't know. So yeah.
Well, it's a whole new world. I mean, we're definitely.
What I thought you did really wonderfully, with a lot of examples, but the Kylie Jenner and the Old Town Road gave you two data points to actually, introduce us, and then you created great value for me at the summit, the Free Zone Summit, because I said, can you kind of talk through what the underlying structure is of these things happening? And then you did, and immediately I thought, well, that's a whole new thinking process that you've created there. So we've made progress since last Sunday.
Yes, I love that. This is great. It's so good. And it's all part of this is the operating system for Cloudlandia,
Yeah.
That's really, I like that. I was also thinking, Dan, I wonder, just try this on for a second. So we're approaching the 2 year, has it been 2 years or 3 years for Joy of Procrastination?
Well, it'll be the third year in July.
Third year in July. I wonder if we should start a new series, just a retitling of this, where because all the new discussions that we're having seem to be centered around Cloudlandia. And I was thinking I wonder if we should start a new line of thinking for the next 3 years on Welcome to Cloudlandia as a podcast.
It's done.
Welcome to Cloudlandia.
That was easy. That was easy. Well, these are collector's items then, because every podcast we have between now and July, these are this is like the Stones' last concert tour.
I think that's true. And so in that regard, I think it would be nice for us I'll do the same, is to reflect on, because we had some great stuff in the line of thinking of the Joy of Procrastination.
We did.
Using that, I think it would be really good for us to kind of look back and see reflect on the best and brightest ideas that came out of that.
Well, there's Jackson time.
There was that. You see what I'm saying? That's right. There's brainstorming as the procrastination buster.
Yeah. Well, I'll put together 3 things by next podcast, which will be next Sunday.
And I'll do the same.
3 things that I got out of it, and then we can have a review of the goal. This is like going back and listening to Motown records.
Right. I think that's a great. idea, because then it'll give us then we'll have 3.
All the value. Well, first of all, Cloudlandia versus the mainland was one of the ideas
that came out of it. But that's exactly right.
So anyway, but we'll each do 3, and we'll see how much we overlap when we get together and compare notes. Yeah,
I think that's awesome.
Great. Yeah,
cool.
Yeah,
I'm excited about that, because I think that's really where this is the exciting thing. I think this is the thing I'm going to hitch my wagon to, like you hitched your wagon to the microchip. You know? That I think over the next 25 years, this is going to be the thing that frames it.
Yeah, well, it's kind of interesting, because in 1974, when I, launched into my coaching career in August of 1974, I had a thesis that we were entering the great crossover. And I had said this is the 4th great crossover. The first great crossover would be when some humanoid type of creature learned how to talk. It's pretty clear now that Neanderthals didn't talk the way that we talk. They probably had a wide range of grunts, but they didn't really. And part of it was their jawbone. They didn't have the jawbone that really supported speech, where humans had developed. And the big thing is an overbite. It's where your front teeth come down in front of your bottom teeth.
Oh, really? That makes that gives an advantage.
And it's not so much. It's not so much that that's the critical factor. Is that if your jaw is constructed that way, there's all sorts of very, very precise sounds you can make with your lips. Where if you don't have that, it's really harder to make these kind of sounds. And my feeling is that nature just maximizes whatever new advantage comes along, and so that seems to be the point. But there was a great crossover where you had one group of hominoids who can basically create words, sentences, and everything. It would have given them an overwhelming advantage over any competitors who couldn't. Not that they were trying to do away with the competitor. It's just that they would be able to do all sorts of things from a stand. The moment you have speech, your teamwork goes 10 times. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the next one is writing, and the third one would be printing, and the fourth one is the Cloudlandia, ability to communicate. And and the whole point is that I personally, the way I'm looking at the future, Babs and me together as partners, and our entire strategic coach team we're not who we were 2.5 months ago.
Right. That's true. You think it's been accelerated by 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I would say 5 years and 3 months. Yeah. I keep saying 5 years and 3 months. We've jumped ahead in terms of our how to get things done faster, easier, cheaper, and bigger. Zoom.
Yeah, Zoom is it. I'm telling you.
Yeah, and it was very interesting. John Ratliff at Genius Network said he was talking to someone, and they were just commenting that last Wednesday, so this is the day before John said this, that the market cap for the top 5 American airlines, so that'd be United, American,
yes,
Northwest, and was less than the market cap of Zoom.
Wow. Yeah, that's got to be true. Yeah, I mean, Zoom, soared in they went from 10 million to 100 and something million, right? Or more now. I don't even know.
No, they're about 350. They're about 350 right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's it.
35
and now it's
times,
funny.
35 times in 2.5 months. They've grown.
Now it's funny to see Google and Microsoft and Facebook scrambling to get an entry into that that category.
The train left. The train left.
The train has left. It's Kleenex now forever.
It's clean. Well, Google should talk. I mean, you don't say I'm going to use my search. I'm going to use my search platform. You say,
right.
Google it.
Let me Google that. Yeah, Zoom.
Yeah.
Once you're the verb, that's the thing.
Yeah. So it's really well. That delights me. Yeah, it's time for a new context.
Yes, and that's good. I'm excited because this is. The future is in the free zone. Future is certainly enabled in Cloudlandia.
Yeah, but you know what triggered that? If I look back at what our original idea was, one of our French restaurants on the Saturday when we launched this project, launched it on Saturday and did it on Sunday.
That's right.
It was that we wanted to reduce our house in the mainland.
Mm-hmm.
Procrastination is a necessary step to stop committing yourself to mainland activities, really.
That's right. And we didn't discover that until, we didn't formally discover it until talking about it. I think we talked ourselves into a new reality. That's right. And look at us now.
Look at us, Look at us
now.
Yeah.
I mean, lots.
Look at how many hows we've killed.
Right. Exactly.
Our personal house, not generally.
Yeah.
We've expanded our house, but we've expanded the house that get done. It's just that we're not doing them.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, that's true. That's the thing. It's funny how those things are ingrained. Once I think that a dear friend, Mike Hardwick, and he used to say that his father told him that people change, but not much. That was the reality of what he said. That's right, Mike. People change, but not much. And I like that this, as I look back with delight on these findings in my journal from, 20 years ago now, to have the same, joy or the same thoughts about things, then it's just pretty amazing. Yeah.
I mean, if you go back to to the, we both talked about, our report cards as kids.
Yeah.
We got from our teachers and our observations. In your case, the person who wasn't applying themselves and the me who had no respect for authority, that person still exists, in your case, and still exists in my case the way it was. In my case, it's between 65 and 70 years ago. And I can totally I can totally connect with that person who is 6, 7, 8 years old right now. Yeah, you know, and so that part doesn't change. You know, the part of us that said, "Well, I'm not buying this. I'm not buying that. Nope. I'm not getting involved in that. I'm not getting involved in that." And it was almost like it was kind of like we were rejecting things that we knew that just weren't appropriate for who we were.
Yeah. Yes, and that opens up the opportunity to then embrace more of who you are. And I just love that this is Cloudlandia is welcoming to that, because you can, you know, instantly, seamlessly, you know, connect with, collaborate with, you know, multiplying way people who are anywhere in the world.
Yeah, it's kind of a work pleasure division, and that what it allows you to do, and then is to not have the mainland as necessity, as hard work. But what it allows you to do is just enjoy the mainland for enjoyment purposes, because you have Cloudlandia for creativity purposes.
Yeah, it's very funny. I think I shared with you one time my observation when I was in London at the Shangri-La Hotel. The Four Seasons was sold out, so I went across the river to the Shangri-La in the Shard, at the highest hotel in Europe. And I was looking down on all the people kind of walking around, and I had this, it was kind of meditative. But the thing that I realized is when you're far enough away from the sound of something, like when you're, you know, you start to see the sameness of what it is. When I was thinking about the verbs, you know, that led that whole thought to we're doing something 100% of every day, and what are the activities? What are the verbs that it is, without the inner dialogue or inner context of it? They're very similar things. Like you look at talking on the phone, sitting in my comfy chair here, sitting and talking on the phone. I have these conversations with you, which I love, but this is like if you were just to observe my days, this is a good portion of what I'm actually doing. I'm talking in this chair, either recording podcasts, recording or talking to consulting clients, or you know, leading member calls, or whatever, you know, all from this one position kind of thing. And that's really, there's nothing going to change about that over the next 25 years. Like you've been doing workshops in that you gather people in a room 50 at a time to have a workshop is your, I was calling them your power move. You know, that's your unique environment kind of thing. And your whole.
Well, it's you know, it's a multiplier, because I used to do a one-on-one for a whole day.
Right.
Now I do. Yeah. You know, then in the in-person, the biggest I ever had, which actually worked really well, but it lacked doing it in my own space. The biggest workshop I ever had was in Chicago, and it was 136. I had 136 in the room, and it was broken out into tables, 8, 13. Yeah, it was broken, but probably about 16 tables. And, you know, 3 screens up front, multimedia, 3 screens up front. And I had a table coach. So I had a veteran coach who was at every table, who was a table coach. And that was our training program for developing actual coaches. So probably the first five or six individuals who became coaches actually started off as table coaches. And so it served two purposes. I mean, it was obviously a big cash flow thing. Yeah, and you know something? Here's an interesting thing. We renewed at 108 the second year.
Oh wow!
So pretty good renewal. And it was frustrating because about the third year of that workshop, we gained our office in Chicago, and they were too big to get back in the office. And we said we wish more of them would drop out. You know, we wish.
Oh boy.
More of them would drop out because we can't fit them in our own place because it was cheaper in our own space than it was in where you're paying conference center. You're
right.
They're gouging you on the food. They're gouging you.
I got it. Yeah.
Plus, you're involved with the unions. The other thing, there's union rules about what your own team can do when you're doing that, and
right.
Everything,
all the AV and all the stuff.
Yeah. You couldn't carry materials into the room. It had to be done by a union member.
Loading had to go through the loading dock. Yeah,
had to go through loading. Yeah, had to go through loading, and it was a load. So anyway, that's really interesting. But the big thing is that I've had as many as 85 on the Zoom. That's the biggest group we've had so far is 85.
Yeah.
And and it's no different from 25.
Right. That's the thing. Because everybody's got a one-to-one connection. It's just the number that you see on the screen. Yeah, it's so and instant, anybody can do it anywhere. Yeah. The other thing is, Peter Diamandis has got this great thought structure that he developed I think he developed it, but we really brought it out in A360. And it was that there are 6 Ds to this great crossover. Yes. So you talk about the great crossover. There's 6 Ds. The first of all is to digitize. Okay, so digitize is the first step. And then it's deceptive. For a long time, your digitization doesn't really show up in the mainland. I mean, people can't tell people don't know that you're digitizing. So you're making progress. Yeah. It's not observable from the outside. And then when it breaks ground, let's say it makes its appearance, it's disruptive because it's like the ice cream shop. It was digitized. That there was a period. Well, first of all, it can only be done by digital. The networking and the putting the whole system together has to be digital. And maybe that was a year in the making, and because you had to go around, you had to get the agreement of the gas stations and the convenience stores, and then that's Winter Haven, and then there's other parts of Orlando, and then there's Florida, and Florida's a good place for ice cream, and right across the country, and so there's a lot of programming work, and there's a lot of knocking on door work, but nobody knows that's being created, and then and it might have gone unnoticed if Dean Jackson hadn't noticed it. Well, because you would never think it's such a such a nice.
Well, first of all, you thought it was odd. No, you thought it was odd.
I did think it was odd. You're right.
You said, wait a minute. I don't know Orlando. I know ice cream.
Yeah.
Is this a scam?
Is this a scam? And then I started looking it up, but that's it's one of those brilliant things. Well, that's what happened exactly with the whole ghost restaurant idea.
Yeah.
It all kind of started sliding under radar. Nobody really noticed until somebody said, "Hey, wait a minute! They don't have a dining room."
Well, here's the interesting thing. I was thinking we have a really the best of the neighborhood restaurants here in the beaches. I'm going to finish the other 6 Ds. I got through 3 of them. So digital, deceptive, and disruptive. And but we have actually he's from France, and he's got a place called Sauvignon, and it's it's just west of Woodbine Avenue, on Queen Street. But I'm going towards the city, and
I know where that is.
And it's on the corner, and he takes advantage of the huge community that has been built up on the former racetrack. He used to have Greenwood Racetrack, and that all, racetrack is not where people go for their entertainment. And so anyway, it's big. It's one of the biggest. I think they put in around 1,500 units. 1,500. There's no detached. It's all attached. 2 houses at a time, or in some cases, eight houses at a time connected. And but he lives on. He's got a great community there, and then he's got an old traditional beaches neighborhood, and it's the only place in the beaches we go to eat. I mean, there's nothing else. Doesn't matter how a restaurant starts in the beaches. After 5 years, it's either Japanese, Korean, or Chinese, or it's the Friar and the Firkin. It's a pub.
Right.
Yeah. So that's all. Everything. It's not a high class eating, but this is a good restaurant. And he immediately on the first day switched over to takeout. So he minimized his menu. Every day he has 3 things you can order, and you have to say the time you want the pickup. And and I bet he's done really well. I bet But what it means is that the chefs can come in as early as possible, where before they wouldn't come in until about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Now they can come in at 6 in the morning.
Yes. And start, you can plan ahead, start preparing.
Yeah.
Because you're only making 3 things. That's great.
Yeah. And you got maybe one staff who, who make sure that the deliveries are at the front door when they have to be. I don't think they deliver. I think it might be only takeout. So he's taking advantage of the fact that you're only having to walk a couple blocks to get dinner. So anyway, but it's kind of interesting.
I love that.
It's very interesting. But my feeling is that when things open up, he's not going back. I mean, I think he'll keep this. He's created a whole new part of his restaurant out of this.
Yeah. Well, I remember you were describing those when you were at Pusateri's looking across by the Four Seasons.
Oh, yeah.
The thing that you were describing to me is what I've found out is now a pizza portal. That's where
Pizza portal.
Yes. That's the thing that is to cut down on the contactless delivery kind of thing. That you could order your pizza and then it comes to the portal. That's all. That's a whole nother.
Yeah. You know what I love? About your idea of rebranding our talks in July? What I love about it is that we now have a higher level capability. Welcome to Cloudlandia. But only because we were committed, and we had the courage just to go ahead with our first idea.
I think you're right. That's great.
Yeah. But the other thing is that the scope of things that we can talk about just expanded exponentially.
I agree. And we had done that anyway. We would literally for the last 6 months, out of a sense of duty. Out of a sense of duty, we would feel like we had to somehow tie that back to the joy of procrastination. But I think that has gotten us to here, And now we can unfettered chart our course into Cloudlandia and bring our all the skills that we developed by harnessing the joy of procrastination with us.
And we deserve it. I mean, we deserve it.
We're Cloudlandia immigrants, Dan. We're Cloudlandia
but we
immigrants.
deserve it. Yeah, but we
do deserve it
because we made the long voyage.
That should be the 7th D, is deserving it. So what's the 4th, 5th, and 6th?
Yeah, the 4, 5, and 6 is that it dematerializes.
Uh-huh.
Well, no, the first thing is that it demonetizes. In other words, that however money was being made in the old mainland way, all of a sudden the actual price, the price of productivity and the cost of productivity and the price you can offer it for,
comes down.
Comes down, and that
you're getting more for
is because it dematerializes. So here you got the biggest ice cream shop in the world. Okay,
yes.
But it doesn't have any material to it.
That's right.
I guess someplace in Unilever, there's office space or something that runs this, but maybe during the pandemic that wasn't true. It was all run from people's homes.
Yeah.
And then the sixth one. So you have dematerialize, demonetize, or demonetize, dematerialize, and then the sixth one is democratize, and that is that authority and pecking order and everything else ceases to exist. Anybody can join in, and anybody can make use of the service. And that's one of the things I really, really noticed about team meetings on Zoom, that everybody's got an equal size square.
Yes. Oh, that's great.
Zoom. Yeah. So there's Babs and me. So we have our company, and we've done a couple all company ones, and everybody's squares is equal to everybody else. Everybody's in their own home. Everybody's same size. Everybody's got something to say. Everything else pretty equal.
Yes. This is fascinating. I'm very I'm very excited. This is going to be a great thing. We've done, I think, enough episodes of the Joy of Procrastination that we would qualify for syndication, probably. if we were a TV series,
Yeah.
I wonder to see how many episodes we are at right now. That would be.
We're probably not in Seinfeld territory yet.
Not 200, certainly.
No.
88. So that's
pretty amazing.
It is pretty amazing. Yeah.
Well, so we'll break 90 in the next month.
Yep.
And the pandemic's made us more regular.
That's true.
It certainly made us more frequent. Pandemic
That's true.
Certainly made us more frequent. Yeah.
Yeah.
And welcome to Yep.
It's been delightful. Okay.
Yeah. All right. What a pleasure.
Yes, Dan. Thank you. You have a wonderful day, and happy birthday this week.
Yeah, and I'll send you the writable PDF then on Tuesday.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Yeah, and somewhere along the line, people are going to say, "Can we get a copy of that? Can we get a copy of that?" Well, not until we nail it down.
That's great. I love it.
Okay, Dean. Okay.
Thanks, Dan. Bye.
Bye.